Hello, my name is Daniel Simon, and I'm the editor-in-chief of World Literature Today magazine here at the University of Oklahoma. And I'm with Manan Cuellar, who is a PhD student in the English department. And Manan, would you like to tell us a little bit about your dissertation project and your background?
Sure. This is my 5th year at OU. I'm originally from El Paso, Texas, and my area of focus is Chicano literature. And right now I'm working on my dissertation, and I'm looking at Gloria Anzaldua's theory about borderlands, but also expanding the lens through which I'm looking at her theoretical framework and looking at the spiritual activism behind her early writing and her later writing.
And we're here at the Returning Gift Conference, the 25th anniversary festival that's celebrating Native writers here at the University of Oklahoma since the 1992 conference was first held here. And I know on your committee you have Dr. Kimberly Weiser and Dr. R.C. Davis-Undiano, who are both very involved in Native American studies and Chicano studies on campus. So we'd like to say hello to them and thank them for their support of this project. And we're also really celebrating the May issue of WLT, which featured many of the Native writers who are on campus this week. And we have in particular Ruby Hanson Murray, Kim Blazer, Tiffany Midge, Linda Rodriguez, Aragon Starr, and Allison Hedge Koch, who will be with us today for some interviews where they're talking a little bit more about their work and what it means to them to be Native writers today. So without further ado, we'll get into the interviews.
Today we are joined by Tiffany Midge and Linda Rodriguez, and hi to both of you, welcome. Both of your pieces in World Literature Today discuss significant life experiences such as death or childhood memories, and I would like to ask both of you to talk about how these significant experiences influence your work.
Well, those are some of the most dramatic instances of my life. For that particular piece, it was the death of loved ones, and then different experiences with funerals and various funerals. And so I think that definitely would influence the writing, because it's, you're in a very emotional place and you're in a very dramatic, life-changing situation,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So those are the sorts of things that, I think all writers write about.
And the title of your piece is Burying My Heart at Chuck E. Cheese, and I can't help but always chuckle when I read it.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that title come to you?
I don't know.
You just like that. That was a great one.
I don't
That's
know.
fantastic.
I think it's just a play on words and just sort of something, a humorous approach to life and death. Yeah, and just being able to take that title, which is, a really somber, sort of reverent title, and just, putting it, turning the tables and making it irreverent,
Right.
Which is probably a real big hallmark of my work, is just irreverence, the sacred and the profane, and just playing with that and being a little bit profane with it. Combining it and making it about popular culture and consumerism society. Yeah.
Linda, so your poem Sitting in the Car presents a difficult situation, and could you talk to us about your process in constructing that particular piece?
Well, it's a childhood memory, and I think most poets are harvesting childhood memories and making childhood memories for at least part of our poetry. And those are sometimes some of the bombshells that they often pack the most power. I had kind of a traumatic childhood. I've told people that my childhood makes mom ears look like a fairy tale. But then there's a lot of people who've had traumatic childhood. And I write a lot about my adult life, but I find that people really resonate the most with the poems I write about my childhood, about some of the most. I write those poems to make sense of those experiences, to look back and try to let it not be just this bomb that exploded in my life as a kid.
Do you see your poetry speaking to experiences that other people in Indigenous communities face?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, it's not uncommon. At the same time, I'm real leery about this whole kind of looking at those with tragic childhoods and saying that's because, you know, we're Indigenous. Because there's lots of white people out there that have some pretty bad parents and real difficult things to deal with. And I don't want to be playing into this whole res porn thing where it's kind of everything about Indigenous people is about addiction and alcohol and neglected children and everything like that, because I think we're about a lot more than that. And that's just a tiny part of who we are.
Tiffany, how about for you? Do you see your works being influenced by issues that Indigenous communities face?
I think most definitely. I mean, my earlier work for sure. You know, I talked a lot about that, kind of, you know, those sorts of experiences, just to bring light to it, to bring awareness to it, to bring visibility, you know, to a lot of the issues. I felt like I was doing something important in bringing those to the forefront. Yeah, I mean, sort of, it's good citizenship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're really important issues too.
And if you think of it in that way as a citizen of a tribe and wanting to bring attention to issues that tribes face, how do you see tribal influences impacting your storytelling process?
I don't know. I don't have a really quick answer for that right now.
How about you, Linda? Do you see any tribal influences impacting your storytelling process?
Well, I think mine have been impacted by my Cherokee heritage, but I want to make a point, and that's I am not a tribal citizen, and that's an important point because under the tribes are sovereign nations, and citizenship it's something they decide themselves, and it's a very it's really important right now in our political situation now. So I'm not making my decisions as a citizen of the tribe, but as someone who is fortunate enough to have the tribe, you know, kind of accept me and deal with me. But as far as the tribal influences, I'm a storyteller, and the Cherokee have been storytellers for a long time, and I grew up with it with my grandmother, with my aunts, and that's just a part of it.
Yeah, which leads into my next question. Maybe both of you have already touched upon it. But why is storytelling important? Just in general, why do you think it's important?
I think we make sense of the world through story, and I think the world is broken, and I think it's a way of healing the world. I think we're kind of called to do that, and you know, it may sound kind of grandiose, but I really think that that's what we, especially. I'm a fiction writer as well as a poet, but I think especially in the poetry part, I think that's what poets are called to, kind of heal this broken world.
How about for you, Tiffany? Why is storytelling important?
I was just going to say that's a really terrific answer. I love that idea of healing. But storytelling, I just like, you know, a narrative. I like being pulled along. I like to be entertained. I, you know, come to revelations, you know, through the act of it, through telling stories, and through writing, of course. And I like to uplift people and, you know, just sort of extend a lot of ideas and thoughts and images. I mean, that's kind of the thing for me. And I suppose that's all healing, right? Absolutely.
And what you do, Tiffany, I think is so important. Tiffany uses humor to take what are sometimes really unpleasant truths for the mainstream society to face, and makes it more palatable, and makes it something that they can actually look face to face with, you know, without just getting in high dudgeon about it and all, and maybe educate more. And I think she does a fabulous job with this.
Thank you. That's nice.
Yeah, I agree. When I read your piece, it makes a process that everyone goes through, death, there's a different perspective to it, and it speaks to different people's experiences. Well, thank you both for your time. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Really appreciate it.